Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and this morning we'll have a look at the latest from the National Hurricane Centre, as we do have some interesting developments going on in the Atlantic at the moment. Now, the hurricane season officially started on the 1st of June, but really does only start getting ramping up throughout July, August, and September. Again, it's predicted to be an above-average hurricane season, probably not as high as last season, which had an exceptional amount of named storms. But again, we could be seeing a lot as we do have some above-average sea surface temperatures. But do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Do remember to follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description. I will have my update this evening on the latest for thunderstorms over the next few days in the UK. Stay up to date for that, as yellow warnings have been issued for Friday, have been changed for Friday and have been issued for Saturday, covering many eastern areas. So some eastern parts of England have got 4 days straight of thunderstorm warnings. So we'll have a look at that later. But first, we'll just have a look at the current disturbances. So we'll first look at this tropical wave that's just coming off the coast of Africa at the moment. Now, tropical waves off the coast of Africa are normally the systems that develop into hurricanes that affect the Caribbean and then head up either into Florida or up the east coast of America, or sometimes can go into the Gulf and affect parts of Texas, Louisiana, and various states in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, this tropical wave is located several hundred miles south of the Cabo Verde Islands. It's producing a large area of cloudiness and disorganized shower, and any development of this system should be slow, because there's a combination of dry air aloft and strong upper level winds that will limit chances of formation while the wave moves over the central tropical Atlantic. So looking at it, I've seen it's quite a large tropical wave, and if we did have good sort of conductive conditions for a tropical storm or hurricane to form, this probably would be turning into quite an intense storm. But the current conditions aren't particularly good for tropical storms and hurricanes, so or at least in this region. So I don't suspect this is going to be turning out to too much. But again, it's very difficult to forecast how these tropical waves will sort of move over the next few days, as it will be moving quite slowly, and probably this sort of area won't reach the Caribbean or sort of Florida area for another at least 7 to 10 days. And remember, if we look at UK forecasts 7 to 10 days out, it is still very uncertain. So we'll really have to keep an eye on this system, but at the moment I wouldn't be too worried about that. There's another sort of disturbance that's formed just off the coast of Mexico, and probably will be of concern to some meteorologists in America. Now, this disturbance is a disorganized area of showers and thunderstorms over the Bay of Campeche, don't know if I've butchered that or not, in association with a broad area of low pressure. Gradual development of this disturbance is possible during the next couple of days while it meanders near the coast of Mexico, and it should move northwards by midweek, and a tropical depression is likely to form. So likely to form into a depression, but how much more intensity it can get is quite uncertain. Regardless of development, heavy rainfall is possible over portions of Central America and southern Mexico over the next few days, and heavy rain could start to impact portions of the North Gulf Coast on Friday. So you can see over the next 48 hours a 20% chance of formation to a cyclone and a 70% chance over the next 5 days. So we'll really have to keep an eye on this, as it's looking like it's been heading northwards into Texas and Louisiana. At the moment, it doesn't look like it's going to be intensifying into too severe of a storm. But again, it's slow moving, and as it said there, it's got a lot of heavy rainfall to it. So the impact from this storm would probably be heavy rainfall if it does stagnate near the coast. So we'll have to keep an eye on that moving through. The one storm that probably could be an issue to the UK right now is Tropical Storm Bill, which has got sustained winds of 50 miles an hour, and is moving northeast at 31 miles an hour, and probably is going to affect parts of Newfoundland and parts of Canada soon. Now, it's heading in this direction and will probably get swept up by the jet stream, so it'll be interesting to have a look at the GFS run later this evening for how it could affect the UK. As again, these tropical storms are unlikely to directly impact the UK, i.e. we're not likely to see sustained 50-mile-an-hour winds hitting the UK, especially this time of year, but it could have upper level effects on the jet stream, considering that of convection taking place and its strong winds. It's likely to change the subtle changes in the jet stream, which could impact what sort of weather we do see, whether we see a trough sitting over the UK or higher pressure. So it can have quite big differences. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, on its movement. If we do move to the 5-day look, this gives a general sort of what we're going to see over the next 5 days for the disturbances. So you can see disturbance 2 is going to move quite slowly westwards over the next 5 days into the middle of the Atlantic. So that's why there's a lot of uncertainty over how it will develop. And you can see there's disturbance 1, which has a 70% chance over the next 5 days, will move northwards into the Gulf of Mexico and probably will start to affect parts of America, especially with its rainfall. Uncertain whether the storm does really go into the America yet, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. If we do have a look at the track of Tropical Storm Bill, you can see at the moment it's got quite a small area of tropical storm winds. It will move northeastwards, maintaining its tropical storm strength before it does lose its sort of tropical nature and becomes a post-tropical storm as it heads sort of through Canada and into the North Atlantic, and will probably be swept up by the jet stream before it loses all its intensity and just becomes an area of low pressure. So we'll have to see exactly how that does impact the jet stream later. But interesting to see this developing earlier in the season, but is unlikely to really impact too many people. Just a post-tropical system as it sort of edges over parts of Canada. If we now have a look at live satellite data from Weather Nerds, I've only recently come across this website in the last sort of month or so, and it's a really good website for sort of hurricane and American analysis. Now, because it's using American satellite, if we do have a look at regions, we don't have one that's covering the UK. So if it did cover the UK, probably would use this a lot more for looking at our thunderstorms and our sort of systems. But it's generally an American forecast, American satellite data. So it shows a lot of the American parts very well. So we're looking at the North Atlantic at the moment. So just let it update, and we're looking at the current satellite data, and you can see each of these yellow flashes is lightning and thunder, and you can see the cloud. Now the lightning will only be issued towards America as they've got better radar there, so we can't see what lightning activities in the tropical wave that you can see over the course of Africa at the moment. You can see there is quite a few big cumulonimbus clouds there, but they're quite disorganised, and we'll have to watch over the next few days how organised this does become. If we do have a look at the disturbance to the north, or just in the Gulf of Mexico, you can see there are lightning strikes around. Now, the one issue you do get sometimes with these lightning detectors is they're good at measuring cloud to ground lightning, but sometimes don't always pick up every cloud to cloud lightning or shear lightning, which is quite common in storms. So it may be not be picking up all the lightning strikes. There's a chance it's a lot more intense than this. But at the moment, it doesn't look too bad on this, but we can't quite see the live satellite loop as the sun hasn't risen yet. If we do move to Tropical Storm Bill, if we do zoom in on that briefly, you can see there are some lightning strikes on its outer bands, but you can see it's reasonably well organised into sort of a typical low pressure system. So it's not got this big spiral with an eye, which we would expect if it started getting into hurricane status. But it does look well organised with quite high level clouds with decent rotation within it. But it will start to weaken over the next few days as it heads northeastwards. If we do have a look at the infrared satellite image, if we do go back to the North Atlantic view, you can see the tropical wave does have actually quite a lot of thunderstorms associated with it, and it's quite a big area of infrared, so we've got to keep an eye on how that does develop. You can see the Tropical Storm Bill has, again, quite high levels of infrared, and it is in a decent formation, and you can see the red colours there, where its main core of convection is spiraling out of the centre. Again, will be decreasing over the next few days, and it doesn't have too much active convection, and that's why it's going to be weakening. But you can see where we do have really active convection with these white colours showing big, deep convection with big updrafts in this disturbance over Mexico and in the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see this will be heading northwards with quite intense thunderstorms and heavy rain going around it, which will, if it does develop sufficiently and does head towards the American coast, could provide some issues. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, not only for American forecasts, but it's likely if it does head towards America, it will be swept up by the jet stream and potentially will be heading towards the UK in a week or 2 weeks' time. And could be impacting our weather, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But it's looking interesting, nothing too dangerous or imminently going to be providing any imminent impacts to many parts. But we just need to keep an eye on this, as it can really pop up quite quickly, and these disturbances only really popped up in the last few days, so we'll just have to keep an eye on them, how they develop over the next few days, as we are looking at probably another active hurricane season, unfortunately. And again, as I said earlier in the video, these hurricane systems can get swept up with the jet stream and can affect the UK, especially later on in the summer and into the autumn. So it's always a good guess to see how these do develop. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video later on the latest thunderstorm issues in the UK.